Rolex is one of the most prestigious and well-known luxury brands in the world, currently valued at around $8 billion. Its history began over a century ago, with a young orphan named Hans Wilsdorf. Despite having his inheritance stolen from him, Hans was determined to overcome his challenges. He ran away from his hometown and moved to another country in pursuit of a better life. After working his way up for a few years, he decided to follow his passion for watchmaking and opened his own business. Little did he know that this venture would lead him to revolutionize the industry and create a billion-dollar empire. But wait! Before we dive into today's topic, we have an exciting announcement to make. From today, you can join our fantastic giveaway. To participate, all you have to do is subscribe to our channel, follow us on our brand new social media, and share your favorite content. You can enter as many times as you like to increase your chances of winning great prizes. For all the information, visit the link in the description. We wish good luck to all who participate. Now back to our topic. Hans Wilsdorf was born on March 22, 1881, in Kulmbach, Germany, the second of 3 children. His family ran a successful business selling iron goods, but tragedy struck when his mother fell ill and passed away in 1892. Just a year later, his father also passed away, leaving Hans an orphan at just 12 years old. Under the custody of his mother's brothers, Hans was sent to a prestigious boarding school in Bavaria, Germany, called Ernestonum Coburg. Although he initially hated the decision, he learned to focus on his studies, excelling in mathematics and languages, specifically French and English. These skills would prove valuable later in his career. During school, he became friends with a Swiss boy who told him stories about his birthplace, La Chaux de Fonds, a city known for its watchmaking industry. Hans became intrigued by this and decided to move to Geneva, Switzerland, at the age of 19. He landed a job as an apprentice for an international pearl exporting company, where he learned about business tactics and made good money for his age. Eventually, he received a job offer from Cuno Corton, a well-known high-quality watchmaking company in La Chaux de Fonds. Although he was already in a more beneficial position, his curiosity for the place and the business around watches was too strong to resist. He worked for Cuno Corton as an English correspondent and clerk, winding hundreds of pocket watches every day and verifying their accuracy. Unfortunately, he had to leave the company after only 2 years to serve in the army back in Germany. Once his service was over, he moved to London, England, to work for another high-quality watchmaking company. During his time there, he gained valuable experience and knowledge about the industry, while also meeting his future wife, Florence Frances May Crotty. In one instance, there was a conversation between Hans and his brother-in-law, Alfred James Davis, about their future plans. Hans was eager to start his own watchmaking business but lacked the capital required. Alfred, knowing Hans' passion for watches, decided to take a chance and invest his money in Hans' business venture. In 1905, they formed the Wilsdorf and Davis Limited, which later became known as Rolex. The company partnered with a Swiss watchmaking company called Hermann Egler and began importing movements to England to place in watch cases. The business quickly became successful and specialized in the distribution of affordable timepieces. However, Hans was not a fan of pocket watches, which were the more popular choice among men due to their bulkier size and precise timekeeping abilities. He found them inconvenient and began working on creating the perfect wristwatch that could consistently show the exact time and be worn every day. Hans traveled to many countries in Europe, met with countless watchmakers, and started releasing his own wristwatches, crafting down on creating a better high-quality and reliable wristwatch for men and women. In 1908, his company was already one of the top firms in the watchmaking industry in England. In an effort to find a name for his company that was high-class, catchy, and easy to say in any language, Hans combined 5 letters from the alphabet and came up with the name Rolex. He registered the name as a trademark for Wilsdorf and Davis Limited in 1908, and the company continued to grow in popularity. During World War I, many businesses were struggling to stay afloat, but Rolex was able to stay afloat and even became more famous. Soldiers were given Rolex watches instead of pocket watches, as they were easier and safer to use, and helped with coordinating attacks because of their precision on time. By 1914, the company had grown to employ 60 people and had big open office spaces in London. The brand's reputation was further solidified by winning the first ever wristwatch chronometer rating from Switzerland, followed by a Class A certificate of precision from London's Kew Observatory. making it a more trustworthy brand for people to buy. However, in 1914, the British applied a 33% tax for all companies registered in Great Britain that were exporting goods across international borders. Hans moved his company's headquarters from London to Bienne, Switzerland, in order to avoid these taxes. The move was also partly due to the growing dislike of Germans in Britain because of World War I, and Hans' German name was getting looked down upon. As a result, Hans completely switched his company name from Wilsdorf and Davis Limited to the Rolex Watch Corporation Limited in 1915. Years later, he also registered Rolex's famous trademark logo of the 5-star crown, which became a permanent fixture on the dial of their watches. The year was 1919 when the Rolex Watch Corporation decided to relocate its main office from Bienne to Geneva, where it still stands today. From then on, the company focused on manufacturing the watch movements in Bienne and transporting them to Geneva for careful verification of their accuracy and finishing them with their high-class design before launching their products. It was in Geneva where Hans and his team went all in to improve the technical innovation of the wristwatch. They aimed to make the watch case so tight that their movements would be permanently guaranteed against damage caused by dust, perspiration, water, heat, and cold. Only then would the perfect accuracy of the Rolex watch be secured. With his patience and determination, Hans eventually succeeded in this goal, which paid off big time. In 1926, Rolex released its new model that would forever change the watch industry, the Rolex Oyster, the first ever waterproof wristwatch in history. This new model was sealed with a very tight case that provided optimal protection for the small watch movements inside, leading it to be waterproof. Hans knew this was revolutionary and that people would certainly be interested in it, but he decided to wait for the perfect opportunity to present it to the world in a very creative way. In 1927, Hans heard about a woman from London named Mercedes Glitscher who claimed to be capable of swimming across the English Channel, a 20.5-mile body of water that separated England and France. People didn't believe her, so she was set to do it again in front of thousands of people, even though the water temperature was much colder. Hans saw the opportunity and encouraged her to wear a Rolex Oyster watch around her neck. After swimming for over 10 hours, she was pulled out from the water after almost freezing to death and made it about 4/5 of the way across the channel. The task was not a complete success, but the Rolex Oyster came out of the water in perfect condition. People went crazy for the watch, and Hans followed the publicity by putting an ad in front of the London Daily Mail newspaper related to the event. This is the point where Rolex rose to international fame as a revolutionary watch. To further the hype, Hans also marketed his Rolex Oyster inside fish bowls with real fishes in them on the sale display of every Rolex dealership for people to see when they walked by. This genius strategy worked amazingly, and people became hooked on the products. By now, Hans decided to advertise heavily on Rolex. In 1928, he worked with the top British model at the time, Evelyn Lane, to promote his watches. Of course, there were pictures of her wearing her wristwatch inside a fishbowl. The publicity didn't stop there. In 1933, Rolex Oysters were seen in the newspaper again related to a flight over Mount Everest in which the crew members who were wearing their Rolexes were very satisfied to see that after the flight, their watches were still 100% functional. Hans asked his permission to publicize it, and Malcolm accepted it, refusing to get paid. In the early 20th century, Rolex gained popularity with the release of the updated Rolex Oyster Perpetual in 1931, the world's first waterproof and self-winding wristwatch. The previous model required manual winding, making it difficult to use. From 1934 to 1940, Hans Wilsdorf produced some high-quality watches under his own name. Hans was frustrated, and his wife's passing in 1944 added to his bad luck. To commemorate her, he established the Wilsdorf Foundation, a charity organization. Before his death, he transferred 100% ownership of Rolex to the foundation, which still owns and controls the company today. After World War II, Rolex started to take off, and in 1946, they sold 50,000 certified Rolex chronometers. By 1947, their sales reached 100,000 certified Rolex chronometers, doubling their sales from the past 2 decades in a single year. During the 1950s, Rolex kept releasing innovative watches, and the most legendary one was the Rolex Submariner, introduced in 1953. It was the first deep-diving waterproof wristwatch that could reach 100 meters deep in the ocean without getting dysfunctional. After Hans Wilsdorf's death in 1960, Rolex started positioning itself as a luxury brand. Rolex remains the most recognizable watch brand in the world. Hans Wilsdorf changed the watch industry to what we know today, and his legacy can be seen today in every person wearing a Rolex. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe for more content like this in the future.